What's up, everybody? How's everybody doing on this Wednesday? I hope you guys had an awesome 4th of July. And I just realized that we have to take the banner off of our site for the closure. Krista or Tor, if you guys are watching, if you can take that off the site, that'd be great. So, anyways, we got some new stuff. So last time we were live last week, I was talking about those dual Z kits that we started and never really did anything for, but we have basically almost a full kit. So just need to have some bolts and nuts added to it. So we do have a total of 6 of those that we had produced. I thought I had published it on our site, but apparently not. Tor, you're in the chat. Oh, wait, I got to start the chat bot up. Hang on, don't ask questions yet. I forgot to turn the chat bot on. I always forget something. The chat bot is loading right now, so it's not going to pick up any questions. Give me just one moment here. I don't see anybody ask any questions, so hang on. Let me, yeah, put it live. So Tor's adding some pictures of it installed on his printer that we tested it on, and it does work. The thing is, it just ended up being too expensive to get it produced. So we just didn't move forward with it. Just the carriages, like the bed carriage and the end caps and the motor mounts, that kind of stuff. Those cost us over $70 a piece to have those made, because we had those made here in the US. Maybe I should have had made those overseas to get the cost down, but I wanted the quality to be really good. So we had those made here. Tor, let me know when those are live so I can go ahead and post the links in the chat, because I have our site up. But I do want to make an announcement here. If you guys didn't see, we launched our own 3D printing bed adhesive, and I am literally making this in-house here. So this is our own formula. This is our own brand of Vision Miner competitor, and it's a lot cheaper. So the 50 milliliter bottles, which is what I'm holding here, which is what we have, I'm waiting on the 100 milliliter bottles come in. These right now are $9.99. We have a few of them in stock. I made a big batch of them, and they've actually been moving pretty good. The normal price will only be $13 for a 50 milliliter. So in comparison, Vision Miner is like $20 for around that size. And then when we get the 100 milliliters in stock, those are going to be 25 bucks. So 25 bucks for 100 milliliters versus Vision Miner at 45 for, I think it's their 120s or 100. So definitely a lot better bang for the buck. And I made some improvements on the formula and the bottle. So the first thing is, I got tired of, like, I love Vision Miner. I still have it. I'm going to use up what I have left. But this is the bottle that comes in. You have to like drip this onto the bed, and then you have to have a brush, which the brush gets hard and caked with the adhesive, and then you got to wash it out. It's a whole process. So I said, okay, now that we're going to make our own, but I'm going to make some tweaks to it because I wanted to make a better product than they have. So one of those things is a built-in applicator tip. So this is the one I've been using. You can see here, nice little tip. So there's actually a valve behind this, and when this gets pushed, it opens the valve, and a little bit of the adhesive comes out of the actual bottle. And then it's like a little fabric spongy type tip. So you can easily spread it around. So instead of having to dribble it all over your bed and spread it out with a separate brush, it's all in here. And then when you cap this back up, the cap actually has a seal on the inside that seats up against the top here so it doesn't dry out. So a lot easier to use. The formula also lets you work with it a little longer so it doesn't evaporate as quick. So you have time to actually spread it out on the bed before it evaporates, so that way you're not getting a ton of buildup and you get a nice even coating. The other thing that's nice is, let's say you're printing in the same spot on the bed over and over again, you can just literally take this and just recoat the area that you were printing in, because after about 10 to 20 prints, you're going to need to reapply it. It doesn't last forever. So you can do spot reapplications if you want to. So yeah, I thought not only let's make a better version, but also address the stuff that I didn't like about Vision Miner. And one of those big things was the applicator bottle. I hated the applicator bottle. Tor, I don't know if it's just because I'm seeing the cached page, but I'm not seeing the dual Z kit pages in the all products listing. Let me see. I know I put it under, I think I put it under the B stock products. B stock and clearance. Is it under there? Yeah, it is under there. Okay. So those two things that we talked about last stream, the Maker Base Robin E3Ps with the screens and the drivers, those were a board we were looking at selling. I just never got around to doing anything with it, and they discontinued the board. So, but if you guys want, they're only $40, and you get the board, the screen, and 4 TMC 2209s. So just the 2209s alone are worth the $40. They are good boards. I really like them, but the thing is, they discontinued it. So if I did firmware for it, I'm kind of glad we didn't. It would have been end of life anyway. So, but it is an STM32 processor. There's no knockoff chips on there. So it's a nice little board. It's supported in Marlin. You can run clip around if you want to as well. And the screen, even though it's a touch screen, is actually supported in Marlin. So it's a nice little board. So if you're looking for even just to harvest the drivers out of it, $40. We've got 8 of them. That's a full kit. So it's 4 2209 drivers with the heat sinks, the 2 LCD cables, the LCD itself, the USB cable, and the board for $40. So, and those are sold as is. So if you guys know what you're getting yourself into, because we aren't doing any documentation for it, we aren't doing any firmware for it or technical support. So if you just want to get a good deal on some parts for a project you have, it's definitely a good buy just for the parts alone. Now for the Dual Z kit, this is a product, like I said, we ended up not moving forward with this just because the cost was too high, but we did have a few produced. So I'm going to switch over my screen here, if I can find my mouse. These are the Dual Z kits, and this is literally what you get. So these are the plates here. So we had these custom plates made. So these are the bearing and linear rod, or bearing for the linear rods and the lead screw holders. These plates go on either end of the actual bed carriage. So this is the bed carriage. You can see here where these 3 bolt holes here, that's where these connect. So those mount up on there. We will have pictures of it fully assembled on a printer in a couple days here. Hopefully by the end of the day today, Tor's going to snap some pictures. And then we have custom motor mounts here, and it includes 2 motors. And we actually have 2 different types of bearings. So we had 2 different brands of bearings. These were like generic ones, and these were like a better, they were supposedly better quality. I found they actually both were about the same quality, but you're actually getting 4 bearings. So if you just want to buy this for the spare parts, it's actually a really good deal. There's also 2 anti-backlash lead screw nuts here, as well as 2 standard ones, and then these are the linear rod holders. So you're going to get the 2 rods, 2 matching lead screws. So just for parts, again, this is a pretty good deal. I paid over $70 just for these parts here on the left, and there's also a dual motor splitter cable here included. So basically, if we were looking at bringing this to market, it would have been over $160 by the time we were done adding all the parts. And we do tell you here, like, what other screws you'll need. So you do need to supply your own screws, and there's a BOM here listed. So if you get this and you want to use this as a kit and not just use it for parts, this is what you would need and where they go on the product. So we only have 6 of those. Like I said, it's just kind of a product that we ended up not bringing to market. This was like our prototypes. These would have been the retail package, aside from only 1 set of bearings. We were trying to figure out which ones we wanted to go with for the linear bearings. But I was like, we have them, might as well just put them in the kit, and they also work to replace the stock bearings. So I'm going to go and post these links in the chat here so you guys can get to them directly. I don't think I did that. So I'm going to post those in the chat. And like I said, these are both as-is products. It's just overstock that we had. It's been sitting in our shop collecting dust. So I was like, well, might as well get them out of here because we've already used the ones we could. We have a couple of the Dual Z kits on printers here, and Tor has some, and our old guy Peter has some too as well. So these are what was left over after the first run we did. And like I said, I ended up scrapping it because it was going to be too expensive. So there we go. I posted links there for the MKS boards with the drivers and everything. And then the Dual Z kit. The Dual Z kit's for the Ender 5 and the Ender 5 Pro. So this the standard size Ender 5s, not the Plus, but the regular size ones. And the stock bed bolts right up to that. But yeah, it's a shame that it was so damn expensive to have made because I really wanted to bring it to market. But there's also a bunch of other companies too that have Dual Z kits. One of them I think is Ender Extender guy. He's got his own Dual Z kit. So I was like, well, you know, we missed the boat on that. We weren't quick enough on it, and the cost was just too much. So, and it's a shame because those custom plates we had made for to actually hold the bed and everything, they came out beautiful, but they were really expensive. It's really expensive to make stuff here. So, and I don't really have a good lead on getting custom stuff like that made overseas either. So, and anyways, we are working on something else, but that's going to be more for like when we come out with our kit printer later this year. So, Tor and I have been busy on stuff. So that's all the announcements I have. I haven't rolled out the new firmware changes for moving us to a paid or included with product platform. We are still planning on doing that. It's just been a couple of busy weeks here with us going through like cleaning house with getting rid of old stuff. Like we're literally going through the shop and being like, okay, what stuff is here that we just don't need anymore, that's just sitting around. Let's get it out of here so we can make room for new stuff. The coax filament still is on sale, and actually, because I need that shelf space back, I'm going to make a little discount code, which will be our little secret. And it will put us below my cost, but I want our shelf space back. So we still have some coax filament left, but I'm going to go ahead and make a coupon right now that will take 10% off on top of the sale price for coax. So give me 1 second here. I'm going to do that. 10% and coax. Let me add those products here. So I'll do the coax PLA. I'm going to add all these here. Pet G's, gunmetal gray. I don't know if we had one roll left of their nylon. I don't know if that sold yet or not, but that was discounted like 20 bucks. I think that was their natural one. I'm just adding all the coax SKUs to the coupon code here, so it'll take effect and you guys can get a discount. So, and we still have some basic colors like ABS and white PLA, so if you guys are looking for stuff like that, you can go ahead and take advantage of that. I have way more SKUs for coax than I thought I did. I thought this was going to be a quick thing to do on live, but apparently not. Almost done. While I'm doing this, go ahead and post your questions in the chat, and I will answer them. I think the bot is working. Yes, it is. The bot is working. So go ahead and post your questions in chat, and as soon as I'm done selecting all these SKUs, which I'm almost done, I'm just making sure I got all of them, we'll go ahead, and I'm going to post the comment or the coupon code in the chat. So here we go. So here's the 10% off coax. Oh, nope. Apparently it didn't copy the code. Let's try that again. 10% off coax. Second time's the charm. There we go. All right, there you go. So that'll take 10% off any of the coax filament. I'm just double checking that I didn't fat finger anything. Yep, we're looking good. It should be everything. So, all right. Let's move forward. So, the other thing is, I will be doing some more. Did you guys like the little video I did showing the battery holder for my go-kart? Because this was actually the version that I thought was going to be the final one. I didn't realize one of the rods needed more clearance right here. So I printed this in like 35% infill, so it's pretty heavy. And then I had to reprint it. And this was actually coax's cobalt blue, which is a really nice color. And it used up a lot of the spool because this is very, very heavy. But it's a good demo to show like the iterative design we could do with the 3D printers, which is really cool. One of those being, I don't know if I have the light here. I think it's in the garage. So I bought these like generic trailer lights to use as a running light and a brake light on the go-kart, because we need to have a running light and brake light for it to be street legal here. And once we have headlights and a brake light with a running light on the rear, we can go ahead and actually pay a $25 fee and we can drive them on the street. So the light had like a little bulge that stuck out where the wires came out, and I didn't want to drill a hole into the frame, so I made a spacer. So this was the first version of the spacer here, and I printed it really fast, and I didn't even let it finish because I got enough of the part done. So I printed it really fast at a 0.3 layer height just to get a fitment so I could see the screw holes and if everything lined up. Then I made some adjustments, and I did a second test part here. Okay, and I broke it just to show the strength. We had someone over here the other day, one of Krista's friends that never had seen 3D printing, and I was like, oh, I'll show you what it looks like inside, and I broke it. So I did it 0.3 layer height, 5% infill, just to get the rough fitment. So I had to make a couple other small changes, but this was basically the second revision, and then this is the final one here. So I printed this at a 0.2 layer height, and I did 30% infill, so it's nice and strong, and looks a lot nicer. So this is what I love about 3D printing, is being able to rapidly prototype. So like to give you an idea, this took me about an hour and a half to print. This one here took like 30 minutes. So I ran this at like 120 millimeters a second, 0.3 layer height, 5% infill, cranked it out really quick. And then I did the same thing with this one. So like, I don't care about how the part looks quality wise. I'm looking for a rough fitment. And then that's what I do when I'm prototyping. I print them out fast, high layer height, faster speed, low infill, just so I can get a rough fitment on the parts. And this one, I don't know what happened to the pieces. So I actually, when I was prototyping this, which is, I probably should have printed a little higher. I only printed the bottom half so I could get the fitment so this can sit on the frame to make sure that this was all lined up. And this was perfect. The thing was, because I only printed up to about right here, I didn't realize that this was going to hit the pipe that comes up that the back of the seat is bolted to. So I had to revise that, and that one's on there, and it's all bolted up, and I'll be taking a video of it. I've got the headlights all wired up, the running light wired up, so all I have left to do is put a little sensor on the brake pedal, so when it goes past a certain point, it turns the brake light on. But I use 3D printing on multiple things. So the battery holder's 3D printed, and I was originally going to use pipe strips, which I thought I had one laying here, but apparently not. And I was thinking it probably wouldn't be a good idea to use something that rigid because it's a go-kart. It's going to bounce around. It's going to be rough like we take it in the backyard. So I ended up using really thick nylon zip ties because those will have a little bit of give to them so they can kind of, flex a little bit as the go-karts are running around, so it's not going to snap the printed part. So when I did it in PLA, I'm going to see if PLA holds up. If it doesn't, I'm probably going to try printing it in a nylon because I have some nylon left over here. And that'll be an expensive part for the nylon, maybe $30 worth of filament. But it'll be really strong. The other thing too is I could do what I did years ago. I could try printing it with weed whacker line. I don't know if you guys know this, but 0.060 inch weed whacker line is 1.7 millimeters. So it's close enough to print with. It does smell terrible when you're printing it. So I don't know if I'm like off-gassing some stuff I shouldn't be off-gassing. But it works. But we'll see how the PLA holds up. I think my idea of doing that, and then to strap the battery in, I got 48-inch long zip ties and just wrap the battery and the mount all around on the frame on this direction and this direction, so it's not going anywhere. And I'm using, a guy gave me an old battery backup with a bunch of little sealed lead acid batteries, and most of the batteries were good, so we're actually using those. And I'm going to have, basically, since there's no stator on any of the motors, to charge them back up when we come back home after we're done driving them around. We'll just have a little battery tender that has a 2 amp charging rate that we can plug in. There'll be a little battery tender plug on each of the go-karts because we have 2 of them. And that'll top the battery off so it's ready to go. What's it called? Once we're back, or once we're going to take it out again. I see Backwood Singer says PLA is going to work from the heat of the motor. It actually doesn't get that hot back there on that side of the engine. So we'll see. If it warps, it warps. My battery holder is the only one that's printed. Krista's actually has a little sheet metal one that the previous owner like spot welded and put together, and we're just going to use that. But yeah, anyways, it'll be cool. I'm going to post videos because I feel like people like seeing that, because this is what I got into printing. Like, I didn't get into printing and start a business. It just kind of happened. But I did it to augment my project. So just on my go-kart, the switch housing for the actual headlight switch is 3D printed. I did that in ABS. I got the spacer for the tail, the brake light and the running light, and then the battery holder. And then Chris's will have just the 3D printed spacer for the the tail light and running light. So we don't actually need turn signals on them. I know, like the hand signals, from motorcycle riding, left and right. So I'll probably just do that. I might add turn signals on. If that's the case, I'll design a little pod to clamp onto the tubular frame. But anyways, I'll stop going on about my stuff, and I'm going to talk about your guys' stuff, since that's what we're here for. So anyways, let's go into the questions. So Savaga's asking, is it possible to see a custom firmware for the stock Ender 3 S1 Pro touchscreen? It's possible. I'm not going to do it because the amount of time it would take, and the problem is that Creality likes to randomly change what vendors are using for the touchscreen. So like if I wrote code that worked on the one, they could start shipping a new version. They've done this multiple times. There's like 4 or 5 different vendors they use for the touchscreens on their printers, and not all of them work. So, and the other thing is they have not released the source code for that. So to reverse engineer that, the amount of time it would take me is not worth it. It's easier just to make conversion kits to get rid of the touchscreens, you know, because basically I'd be pouring tons and tons of time into someone else's product, if that makes sense. And then who knows if it's actually going to stay working as new screen models come out or as new Marlin models come out. Like, it's a large undertaking that is just not worth it, to be completely honest. So whereas the printers like the or the screens like the 12864, those always work in Marlin. Those are a standardized screen. The ones that Creality is using are, you know, proprietary, so, and closed source. So there's only so much you can do. And there's been a lot of people that have been reverse engineering those D-Win screens, but it's just not something I have the time for. And again, as things get updated, it could break compatibility with those screens, which then is more time. I hope that makes sense. So, Apulo, you should mention the cool new ruler. Oh yeah. So my buddy Tony, aka Apulo, if you guys are in the Discord server, you guys probably know him. He's actually one of our Discord mods, and he's been a longtime customer of ours. One of those situations where he was a customer, we became friends. He actually stayed at our house for Murph, and he made us some custom rulers. They're based on, I think, the Voron ruler. And I'll pull this up. So we're gonna have 75 of these. I think they're like $5 or $6 in the shop. But I have these on the way. I think he just sent those out. But I really like this. So it's got like pinouts for the pies, wire gauge size, which I really like, screw sizes, Ohm's law on here, and then different trace widths and stuff. But it's also just a nice ruler. It's actually made from a PCB. So you've got, you know, your centimeters and millimeters here. You've got your inches. So it's just a nice little ruler. I had one like this that I can't even remember where I got it from. So I'm definitely going to be stealing a couple of these when they come in. That I used all the time just for taking quick measurements. Cause like sometimes you don't need a caliper. It's fine if we're within, you know, 1 millimeter when I'm taking a measurement. So those will be in the shop. So yeah. All right. So let's see. BW's electronic, could those motors and screws be used on an Ender 3 V2? I think you're talking about the dual Z kit. I mean, the motors and lead screws, probably. The motors definitely could be used. And those are Creality motors. So in those dual Z kits we have for the $50, those are actual Creality motors. So I sourced actual Creality motors so they match the other ones. So yeah, they're nice motors. Creality uses good motors. I've never had any issues with their motors, to be completely honest. I have, knock on wood, I've yet to have any of their motors die on me. Not saying it's impossible, but their motors have been pretty good quality. I see Greg's Maker Corner. What's up, Greg? I saw Greg at Murph. Him and all his little tiny printers. Guys, we are running out of questions, actually. So, and I might be able to set my phone back up. I could show you guys what I have done on the go-kart. If we run out of questions, I can, it's right in the other room. My Wi-Fi reaches over there. Yeah, so anyways, Backwoods Singer says, please do more Steve-style investigating journalism videos on shady-ass 3D printer-related stuff. I feel like there's enough to do that. Like, that would be a whole job in itself, is digging into all these and, you know, reaching out to people. I will say there is a guy who does work for them that I've been talking to, and I'm not going to out him because, you know, he's a cool dude. And he's not like one of the higher ups. He's just kind of like a guy that helps out with their marketing stuff. But basically from talking to him as well, he's been getting, you know, he had some red flags going off, about the whole operation and things. Like he's never even seen their extrusion line that's supposedly here in the US. If you guys haven't watched that video about this new maker's filament, go check that out on our channel. And honestly, I'm really disappointed because their filament printed decently for a $14 roll filament. It's just, they were lying about where it's made. Based on all the information I have, from what I can tell, even early on, even though they claimed that it was made in the US in late 2021, If it was made in the US in late 2021 and you guys were making it initially in the US, then why is there a 1,300 kilogram shipment of PLA filament coming from India to the US? Right there. So I went really in depth on it. It was really disappointing because we were actually thinking about reselling it. And then I like to qualify all of our vendors. I want to make sure that what we're getting is actually what we're advertising. So as soon as I started asking the questions about where is it made, because it doesn't seem like it's made in the US, and then their website page, their FAQ that said it was made in the US just disappeared after I asked that question, and they stopped responding. That was very suspicious. So I don't know if they're just never going to say anything again, or if they're trying to fabricate some evidence that it was actually made in the US. I don't think that it was. I don't think it ever was, to be completely honest. Like, that's what my gut's telling me. Because here's the thing. If it was made in the US, then it would be really simple to just back it up really quick, not taking days and days and days to get back to people. Do you know what I mean? Like, if it was made in the US, it's really easy to prove that. Here's the thing. If you're running an extrusion line and stuff in the US, you had to have snapped some pictures of it at some point, like showing people like, hey, cool, look, we're making filament. Like, but yeah, so the guy did, and I will just kind of give a little brief update here. So the guy, this New Makers Drew, I don't think Drew is his actual name. I gave him plenty of heads up in advance that I was going to be making a video once they went silent on me. I messaged them about this before Murph, so that was a couple weeks ago now. And then New Makers Drew responded. He sent me a message 2 days ago, and you can see the timestamps here at 2:10. And then I replied 23 minutes back, only if you're going to be 100% honest, nothing. And then I sent another one yesterday at midnight, right before I went to bed. You can see here. So I take it you don't want to talk. And then I went to send him another message today, right here. I was like, you can see right here the message. And I can't send it. And this is usually because somebody blocked you. I don't know if he blocked me, but if you click that link for Discord, it says one of the reasons you'll be getting that error is because they blocked you. And I also was removed from their Discord server. So I don't know if it's not letting the message go through because we're no longer sharing a mutual server, or if because he blocked me, or both. But either way, this is a horrible look for them. And again, it's really disappointing because here's the thing. I don't understand why they just don't say it's made in India. At $14 a roll, nobody gives a shit where it's made. It could be made in somebody's bathtub as long as it prints decently and the price is good. It's the low-end filament market. People don't care. And I don't get why they've gone to such lengths to lie about this stuff. I don't even know if he realized that those records of them importing literally tons of filament wouldn't be a record on the shipping stuff. If you're importing, like, that's a lot of filament. And one of the shipments they got in 2022, at the end of 2022, was over 6,000 kilograms. That's 6 tons of plastic. And one of the excuses I heard was, well, they couldn't buy directly from, what is the company that makes the pellets? NatureWorks, I think it is. Oh, we're too small, so they had to ship it to a bigger filament company in India and then ship it back to the US, except, here's the thing. If that was true, the shipment coming to the US would have been classified as pellets, not filament. And they're all classified as filament, so meaning a finished product, finished filament, not pellets. So if they want to try to say that, that was some information I got from an insider that's worked with them, is that it was just the pellets, and that was the only way they can get the pellets. The other thing too is it's not cost effective to do that. So it's just all these lies on top of lies on top of lies, and they don't add up. They don't make any sense. It's not going to be cost effective to ship pellets from the US to India and then back to the US. You're just adding tons of costs. And even if you're doing sea shipments, it's still going to be pretty expensive. Yeah, I just don't like people lying about this. Like, I think GST was another company that was lying. Like, they were making some of it in the US and the other was in Argentina, but they were branding it all as made in the US. Like, there's just so many shady filament companies out there, and it's all at the lower end of the market. Like, they just aren't honest with people. And here's the thing is, if people didn't think made in the US was justifying better quality and better price, they wouldn't be lying about where it's made. That's a fact. But again, at the lower end of the filament market, people don't really care where it's made. They care, is the product consistent, and does it print good? Like, that's it. You're doing yourself a disservice by lying to your customers. You know what I mean? All right. Bugo says, any plans for an EU warehouse? We do not. Not something we have time to manage or deal with. Justin Dybell's asking if we had a chance to print up the Easy NeoPixel light diffuser. I have not. I've been busy as hell. And like my little bit of free time I've been doing, playing, getting our go-karts wrapped up, which they both run and drive. I'm just getting the electrical done. And then keeping up with our house stuff. Like, I have a fairly big property here, and just taking care of like all the landscaping and the lawn and stuff takes a lot of time. And then the business takes up a lot of my time. Let's see. Want it printed? Have you ever mentioned something earlier that made me think of it? Have you ever made a TH3D origin story video? I haven't. But basically, like, we started out with just our Easy ABL kits, and that was the first product. And the funny thing is, when we started out, I did the same kind of model that we're switching back to, whereas if you bought the ABL kit, you got the firmware with it, because there were some people that could do like the hardware side and they could hodgepodge together a sensor for the printer, but they couldn't do the firmware. And I was one of the first guys to actually take it and make it a complete package with the hardware and the software and technical support, because there were also other guys that made some like ABL kits, whereas like, here's, pick your sensor and here's a board, but you still had to solder it all together. It wasn't a final product. And I was the first one to kind of take it and package it up, and also then, support the product we were selling. Because a lot of people are just like, here's a sensor, figure it out. And the thing is, a lot of people don't want to just figure it out. And my background, if many of you guys may know or may not know, it's probably 50-50, but my background is I worked in IT for over 10 years. And I still do. I do all of our own IT stuff here. Oh, there's a fly in my office. What the hell was that? He's on my monitor now. Where's my electric fly swatter when I need it? But yeah, so that was our first product. And basically you bought the kit, you got the firmware with it, and people loved it. And, the thing is, right now, people are still buying tons of our, or not buying, but people are still downloading our firmware that aren't even customers, that are using competitor products, which is fine. But the reality is the firmware costs us money to host. It costs us money to work on it. So we do need to start charging for our time and our cost. Just example, because of the amount of traffic we get to our site, just our help center. So our help center, if you guys are familiar, that's our support.th3dstudio.com. That site gets over 3,000 unique hits. So IP addresses, 3,000 unique IP addresses hitting it every 24-hour period. Sometimes it's as high as 5,000. Having a site that gets that much traffic costs money to host. Like, our hosting bill just for our main site and that site, they're on the same host, is over $250 a month just for those two websites. It's not free, and the thing is too, we tried moving it to a shared hosting plan, which is cheaper, but just because of the sheer volume of traffic we get, we can't use low-cost hosts. Like, we have to use a proper host that has the capacity to handle a large amount of traffic. So yeah. Anyways, yeah, so that was our first product. We did the ABL kits, and I think the next thing we got into was, like, before flex plates were a thing, we had what we called our Easy Mat, which we still have Easy Mats, if you guys don't know this. They're like a Build Tech competitor. And the problem was, I made them so thick that they lasted too long and nobody was buying more of them. Like, we basically had new customers buying them. I think Uncle Jesse is still using one of his Easy Mats that he bought like 5 years ago. Because my complaint when I used Build Tech was they made it so thin, and it was pretty expensive, like $10 for one sheet. And you just have one print that was stuck too well, and you would tear the sheet. So I was like, I'm going to make a better one that's thicker. Well, the problem is it did last, but it lasted too long, and people didn't rebuy them. So we only have two sizes now. We used to carry them all the way up to 508 by 508. But we have 235 by 235 and 310 by 310. You can actually cut them down to a smaller size. So if your printer, if we have one that covers that size or smaller, you can cut the sheet. It's a polycarbonate sheet with an adhesive backing on it. That was I think that was our second product. There might be some other stuff in between there. But as memory serves, like our second, like, major product. And there's damn it. I didn't get the fly. Yeah, but we still have those, and you can put those on a flex plate if you wanted to. You can stick them right to the board or right to your printer bed. Yeah, and the Easy ABL kits have been you know, evolved over the years. Like our first versions, we just used like regular off-the-shelf sensors, and we did a ton of QC, and like we did a ton of QC to the level where we were testing accuracy on all the sensors, because buying off-the-shelf sensors, you would have like 20% of them that were not accurate enough to use for auto bed leveling. So we had to test every single sensor to make sure it was accurate enough for use with the printers, because some of them weren't. And the ones that weren't got sent back to the manufacturer. And we were hand soldering all this. And those were the first ones. And it was actually before TH3D was even a brand name. It just said TDH IT Professional on it, because that was the site I was using. I had an IT site where I had like tech documents and stuff, and it was a WordPress site. So I was like, well, I need to sell stuff. So I installed WooCommerce, and that site was on a shared hosting plan. And every time, like, we would do batches of the kits, I would get, you know, like 100 to 200 worth of parts to make kits. We would take orders, and I would, you know, start assembling them, and we would sell, you know, 100 to 200 kits in 2 days, and the site would just be getting hammered. It was rough. And then I was like, okay, well, this is, you know, becoming its own thing. So I decided to, you know, make the name TH3D Studio. I think that was back in August of 2018 or 2017. It's whatever our domain. I'm going to look this up. I'm going to look up the who is. I think it was like August something 2017. I'm going to look up our registration information. That's when TH3D became a thing. So, yeah, August 8th, 2017. So that's when TH3D officially launched as a brand name. Was August 8th, 2017. So 8/8/17. That's technically like our anniversary date. So yeah, so we had the version 1 kits that are branded as TDH, and then we moved to the V2 sensors, which were, I'm trying to remember so we had V1, V2, V3, V3.1. So I'm just trying to remember the order. So V2, we moved to customized sensors. So we went from a standard 60 hertz sensing rate to 80 hertz. So it was faster, a little more accurate. We had a lot better accuracy on those sensors. And then version 3, we did a PCB revision. So same sensors as the V2, but the V3, we moved to a new circuit board that actually drove the sensors, where we added on power filtering and reverse voltage reverse polarity protection. So we got more accuracy out of the sensors because they were getting cleaner power. And then V3.1 were the same sensors as the V2 and the V3, except we moved to a shielded cable, which again was a little more cost, but it again increased the accuracy. So then after the V3.1, we came out with the Pro, which is what we have now. And that's where we're at. And the big thing was, before the Pros came out, the sensors were physically connected to the control board. So, and we had 2 different versions of the kits. One was what we called our direct wire, which had a 2-pin screw terminal for the power input and a 2-pin screw terminal for the Z end stop. And then we had what we called our Easy Connect, which was a power adapter, so like a wall wart, which we still have, for the power. And then we had the 3-pin header for the Creality end stops to plug into that. And up until the V3.1s, we were hand soldering everything. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like the PCBs, all the sensors, heat shrinking all the wires, doing all the testing. We hand soldered everything. It was all through hole. There were so many like snippings of the parts from the leads. So we'd populate all the PCBs, bend the leads over a little bit so they don't fall out, solder all the boards, snip all the leads, break all the boards out of the panels, solder the sensors to them. And we had to prepare the sensors before they got soldered. So we heat shrunk the ends of the sensor wires to make them look all nice, then soldered the wires to the boards. It was a whole process. It was very labor intensive, but it was what we were scaling up as demand went up. And, I had to figure out how to do PCB design. Before this, I had never designed a circuit board in my life when I first started making the Easy ABLs. So that was my first time ever designing circuit boards, and learned that all on my own. And then the Pros came out, so we basically standardized on one PCB, and one big thing that people really wanted was to be able to detach the sensor from the control board. And when we did that, that allowed us to then also have multiple sensor sizes, because at one point, I think it was the V3s, we introduced the 12mm size, so we had the 18s and the 12s. But again, those sensors were married to those boards, and we had 2 different versions of boards. So SKU wise, it was a nightmare. Now we have the same control board for all the kits, and either sensor can go with either control board. So we have a standardized plug for the sensors. We're using a 4-pin locking Molex connector. And then the Pro boards took from the same cues and stuff and design stuff that we had on the V3 board with the power filtering, but we added more power filtering on there and just made it all one board. So you could either have, you know, you can hook up however you want. So if you want to power from the 2-pin terminal, you can. You want to power from an AC adapter, you can. If you wanted to, you know, hook up the end stop with two wires going into a screw terminal, you could. Or if you have a printer that has a 3-pin plug or a 2-pin plug, you can unplug that plug into the board. So it was a more flexible board. And the big thing we did on the Pros, because it was really annoying, because the opto couplers that we use on there, they only let electricity flow through one way through it when it's triggered, is we put a switch on the board, which a company, I think in Spain or something, they knocked that off too. I don't know if they're still around, but I digress. But the switch we have flips the polarity on there, so you don't have to repin your cables or take the wires out and flip them, because that was the thing you used to have to do on the end stop. Is if you weren't getting a trigger signal, you'd have to repin the cable, you know, pop the pins out, put them in, flip them. Or if it was the 2-pin screw terminal, you'd have to take them out and flip them and put them back in, and it was a pain. So the Pro was where we moved to surface mount, so we're actually having them produce instead of having to hand solder them, which is a huge labor savings. You know, and the quality went up because, you know, there's a lot of human error with through-hole soldering. And then it just made it easier for the customers and easier for us too. So, where's it going with this? And yeah, we've had people try to knock us off. We've had other people in the 3D printing community try to knock us off, and they've gone out of business because they just couldn't keep up with the amount of dev work and stuff. You know, there was one company that was over in the UK, and he basically would just take our firmware, remove any mention of our EasyABL or TH3D, and put his thing in there, which it's open source, you can do that, but like we were footing the bills for all the firmware development to make sure it worked on printers. But he's gone. And then then Creality tried knocking us off. So we had like Creality's customers contacting us because they thought it was our EasyABL, and it wasn't, and they did a horrible job of it. Like their circuit board was terrible, their print quality on their control board case was terrible because they were printing it, and their sensors were just dog shit. Yeah, and they sent them to us. We actually, yeah, I totally forgot about that. Yeah, we had tickets where Creality directed their customers to us for help, and we promptly told them, hey, you bought a knockoff, you should send that back and buy ours. Yeah, yeah, it's been a wild ride, and I'm sorry if I've been talking about this for too long. I don't know how the hell I remember any of this stuff. Like, my short-term memory is horrible, but I feel like at some point my brain like just remembers things and puts it into memory, and I can recall it at some point. But my short-term memory is dog shit. So, all right, let's see if there's any questions. So my question is, are we just losing viewers, or are you guys actually so enthralled with what I'm talking about that you don't have time to type a question? Yeah, so hopefully all the timeline and stuff is in my head is correct, but that's what I remember. There could be variances and discrepancies, but that's what I remember about all the stuff. But yeah, the EasyABL was our big thing, and it still remains today one of our top sellers. So it's pretty cool. I mean, it's a product that just works. I have, you know, refined it as much as I can, you know, to make it easier to use, to make it more reliable. I mean, the reliability on our new probes is way better. We have way less defects on the new probes. You know, but the thing is, like, we used to pay, like, give you guys an idea, we used to pay, you know, like less than $10 per sensor, like just for the part. That's not including labor to process them and test them. But we've over doubled our cost on our sensors now, but we're shipping way better quality sensors, way nicer sensors than we were, you know, 5-6 years ago. And yes, it means more cost, but the customers are getting, you know, better quality product. Oh, and the other thing too, I forgot, and this is just a general company update. So if you guys notice, we used to have kind of like a split between some products were 3-month warranty and other products were 6. Everything's a 6-month warranty, and that's retroactive. So, you know, basically we had like our higher end products, like our Easy Board, our Easy Pi kits, our ABL kits. Those were all a 6-month warranty. Now everything's 6 months. So, so yeah, I do have time for a couple other questions here. So let's see here. Rapid fire question. JT says, any tips to harden the security of an EasyPi? 2, is using an Ethernet connection safer than wireless? 3, would you be willing to make a video on this subject matter? So I won't be willing to make a video because I don't have time. I'd like to, but don't have the time for something like that. But in terms of hardening the EasyPi security, we actually have an article. If you type in EasyPi security in our Sports Center, there is an article going over like regenerating your SSH keys if you're super paranoid. You know, changing your password, that kind of stuff at the SSH level, that kind of stuff. That is an article in our Help Center, and that works for both versions, our older version based on the Raspberry Pi boards and the new R4 Pluses. And then in terms of Ethernet versus wireless, technically your hardwired is always going to be safer. Wireless is pretty hard to crack. I see somebody said, did we lose Tim? Everything seems fine over here. It's probably just you, Mr. Backwoods. In general, wired is going to be way more secure than wireless, because if somebody has their wireless password or they're on their network, you can easily snoop and do a packet capture, because wireless just kind of broadcasts everything to everybody. If you're on the wireless, you can do a packet capture and see the stuff going on your network. But in general, if you have your EasyPi, your Octoprint or whatever, even you guys running Clipper, if it's on your private network, you have a firewall that is your router. So as long as you're not poking holes through your firewall, and doing port forwarding when you shouldn't, you guys should not be doing port forwarding to your Clipper setups or your Octoprint or EasyPi setups. You should not be doing that. You should be using something like Octo Everywhere, which will tunnel you in through a secure tunnel. Or if you're more tech savvy, set up a server like a WireGuard server, open VPN server, and then you just connect in through the VPN, and then you're basically on your home network. That's what I would recommend. But the thing is too, like if it's just you and you have people you trust and people that aren't going to be dicks and screw with your Pi setups, and log in using the default credentials just to mess with your printers, you're fine. I mean, I have friends that are tech savvy and they know better than to do stupid shit like that on my network, because I'll get pissed, But if you're, maybe on a shared network with, maybe you live at home with your parents or something, and maybe your, siblings or parents want to screw with your stuff, yeah, change the default logins. And that's with any device, So, all right. Pavt's asking, can you share or sell the LED Cube software? So that's not software I wrote. That came with the device. There are GitHub repositories for doing those, but that was a pain in the ass, and that was some Chinese special I got off AliExpress, and the documentation was horrible, and I'm surprised it works, to be completely honest. Yeah. All right. EJ, do you do anything special for air purification when printing ABS in-house? So I'm not too worried about ABS. Our printers are enclosed, so that just kind of naturally keeps any sort of odors and stuff in pretty well. But we do have air purifiers in, like I have one in my office here. We actually have two in our print farm. They're over specs. Like the air purifier here is spec for 2,000 square feet. This room's like 260. And then our print farm room is 600 square feet. And we have two of the 2,000 square foot purifiers. And they do supposedly, I haven't tested this myself, they claim to filter down to 0.1 microns, which is what you need for the ABS fumes. So, I mean, they do seem to do a really good job, because you can walk into our print farm and you might smell a hint of ABS when all the printers are running, but it's not strong. And they seem to be doing the job. But the other thing is they're really expensive for filters. That's the other drawback of good filters, is they're really expensive. Now, there are certain products on the market like the BOFA filters where it's a recirculating filter, so it's got an inlet and an outlet and it sucks the air out, filters it, and puts it back in the enclosure. Those are probably the best ones if you're really concerned. But I kid you not, they're $500+. I think the average price I've seen on those are $700 to $800. So that's more of like, I think like a commercial application. I'm not that concerned about it. I have the air filters in general just because of allergies and stuff. And also, like, we do soldering and stuff, so anything to pull any sort of pollutants out of the air is great. With all those wildfires and stuff, too, is really good because my employees had nice, clean air in the shop when they were working. But, yeah. All right. All right, this is the last question I have in the queue. I've got time for like one or two more if you guys got any other questions here. All right, the last one I have right now, unless you guys ask more, while I'm answering this one, is from Robert, and he said, what type of filament can I use on Ender 3 V2 Neo to print outdoor items? So the thing with that is PETG would probably be your best application because PETG has a higher glass transition temperature. So your PLAs are anywhere from 50 to 60 degrees Celsius. And you'll notice these temperatures I'm going to say are very close to the bed temperatures you print at with these materials. So PLA is 50 to 60 degrees Celsius, and PETG is like 75 to 80, sometimes 85, depending on what PETG, but let's just say 80 for the glass transition temp for PETG. And what glass transition temp means is at what point does the material start to get soft? It starts to lose its rigidity. And that's why we set our beds at those temperatures, because it keeps the plastic kind of extra, a little soft, and it helps it stick down to the bed. It also helps it prevent it warping as it cools. Whereas materials like ABS and ASA, their glass transition temperature is 100 degrees Celsius, so boiling point. The problem with ABS and ASA is you have to have enclosures. If you guys notice, these printers are all enclosed. These are my ABS machines. In our print farm, we've got over 16 machines that are fully enclosed just for doing ABS prints. Anybody that tries to tell you you don't need an enclosure to do ABS or ASA has no idea what they're talking about, and their parts are probably very brittle. If you can print, you can maybe be able to get away with printing like shorter things, but the reality is ABS and ASA shrink as they cool. So the enclosure helps eliminate drafts and helps keep a higher ambient temperature, so they don't pop off the bed, and so the layers can bond correctly. So the problem is, even if you can keep your print stuck down without an enclosure, your layer adhesion is going to be terrible. So yeah, ABS would be good, or ASA. We do actually carry ASA. We have ASA for like, I think it's $20 a roll. It's our easy choice. We have black ASA. ASA is basically like ABS with more UV resistance. So in terms of ASA, it's basically treat it like ABS in terms of slicing and everything. You still need an enclosure for it, but it's going to be a little more UV resistant for outdoors. Now, if you're going to prime and paint something, ABS and ASA, it really doesn't matter what you use outside, because then you're going to have, unless you're putting a clear paint on there, if you're priming it and painting it, you're basically insulating the ABS from the UV light, which can break down ABS. So I've also heard that people said ASA is a little less, like in terms of off-gassing, there's a little bit less. I noticed that it still kind of smells like ABS. Maybe not as strong, so maybe it's a slightly less, but I print a lot of ABS. I also print ASA as well. So, all right, we got 3 minutes left here in the stream. Jimmy Miller asked if you ever thought of radio controlling that big Benji behind you. I got plans on how to do it. I've thought about it, but again, time. There's a lot of stuff I'd like to do, but running a business takes a lot of my time. Like, I don't know if you guys realize, like, this is my full-time job. And for a lot of the people that work here, this is their full-time job as well. This isn't just like a hobby for me. This isn't a side gig. This is my entire livelihood. And I spend anywhere from 80 to 90 hours or more a week working on the business. I work at night. I work on weekends if I have to. I do what it takes to take care of our customers and get things done. So, but, I really appreciate your guys' support. Like, we are genuinely a very small business. Like, we are like, I think 6 people on staff right now. So every little bit helps, and word of mouth is great. If you guys also want to take the time, we do have reviews on Trustpilot. Those always help because people look us up. Like, if you've never heard of us, they're going to be like TH30 reviews. Our Trustpilot comes up. We also have a Google listing as well, and we also have a Facebook page. Those are 3 different places you can leave reviews on, and we really appreciate it. And I do actually go check and respond to the reviews. I do have like a automation to respond to the Google ones, but the Trustpilot ones, if you get a response, I'm probably the one doing it. Tor has the login for the Trustpilot account, but 99.9% of the time, if you get a response on Trustpilot, it's from me. So I'm sitting there typing them up. I know I have to do reply to a couple people because we just had a couple people leave us 5-star reviews. So I'm actually going to see. Let's see. I'm just curious to see where our reviews are at on Trustpilot here. So I just searched TH30 Studio reviews. Here we go, Trustpilot. Let's see. So we got an excellent rating on here. The funny thing is, I can go on a rant about this. The low star ones are people that didn't like that we didn't let them take advantage of us. So like this guy, I also tried reaching out to him. This guy never sent a ticket in. You can see here, I tried to help him out. He just wanted to bitch. And this was a guy who totally screwed up his hot end. And let me show you how, I forgot about this, from 2021. This is how this guy returned his hot end to us in his extruder. This is how he sent it back. It's missing a ton of parts. You can see the extruder isn't even put together correctly. He overheated the freaking heat break here. That's a titanium heat break that blued because it got so hot. And this is two parts that he just super glued together and was complaining about it not extruding correctly. Well, because you completely assembled the thing wrong. Yeah, so that's why he was bitching about it, because we're like, we're not taking a return on this. This is completely screwed up. This guy I think is a customs issue, or no, the rainbow glow in the dark. Yeah, he was saying it's just weak. Most glow in the darks are weak. I think the 3-star is the guy who was complaining about customs fees. Yeah, a costly hidden snag. Anyways, yeah, so, but we have really good reviews. Go and you can look through. These are all public. You can see here, like, we have really, really good reviews. So aside from these guys here that just want to complain and not actually get back to us, I sent this guy so many emails and then he just stopped replying. He's probably doing something wrong with the firmware setup, to be completely honest, like many people do. So anyways, yeah, we're at the 5 o'clock mark. Do I have any other questions? I have no other questions to you. So you know what that means. It's time for the doggos to get their treats. I'm looking to see if either of them perk up. See, he's perking up. I'm reaching for the bag. Every time. It never fails. Oh, the sun is coming into my eyes right here. There's a window right there. I think we're going to give you guys each 2. How's that? Oh, I hear thunder. We're supposed to be getting storms here. Do you think the dogs deserve 2 treats? We get 2. We got 4. 2 for each. What do you guys think? They're sleeping. Yeah. Do you guys want some treats? Come here. Sit. Shake. Good boy. Shake. Come on. Shake. Good boy. Remo, can you speak? Come on. Yeah. Comment. You look so tired. You look so tired. He's taking his time eating his. Comment. You had 2. You fatty. Come here, Comment. Come on, up. Comment, up. Come on, up. Come on, up. Good boy. Here's your good boy. Look how good we take our treat. Look at you. You guys, how many of you guys remember when Comet was just a tiny little puppy? Look at him. Him and Remo are basically the same size now. Do you like your treat? Yeah. Oh, that smells great. What? They're good boys. All right. Comet is ready. Yeah, he got really dark. Oh, the other thing is, we are working on our own revision with the SVO6 duct. I'm going to see if I have, do I have the files? I'm printing them right now on the Ender 6. So we revised them so the cooling's a little bit better than the one the other guy designed. We also made it so one bracket will fit both the regular and the plus, so it's not 2 brackets. Also gives you more adjustment on both of them. But I'm going to test fit this to ours. It also uses the same hardware that the current one we're selling has, so we don't need to do a revision of that. But we got a new adapter plate, and Tor was cute and put a little smiley face here because he thought these looked like eyes. There's a little mouth there. But this is a new duct that he designed. So not only does it have the side ones, and it comes out a little bit further than the original one, so it'll cover the nozzle better on the plus and the regular one, but we also have a third duct back here. Oh, it's not what I wanted to do. We also have a third duct back here, so it's kind of like if you guys ever saw the EVA coolers, and we also added channels in here, so a little bit more directed airflow. So we got the air split between these two. We got one going to the front here. I'll slice this up so you guys can see more of the internal geometry. So this we're going to test. I don't know when we're going to start shipping these. but this is a new revision that we made. So, I mean, I say revision, this is a whole new design. So we redesigned the whole duct and the mounting plate. So, but the same kind of idea, the two-piece where you can still adjust the fan duct. But here we got a little bit more split here. Everything's all nice and smooth, so the airflow is nice and, what's the word I'm looking for? Is planar the right? I don't know. Or laminar flow? I don't know. I'm not an engineer. We just play around with stuff and test it and see how it works. Which, I guess that's engineering, but I don't have a fancy degree that I paid too much money for. We just like to test things out and see how things go. So, you know, a little third duct here. But I'm going to test it out on our printers here before we start shipping that, because the one we have now works great. It's a lot better than stock, but I was like, I think we can do better. So, oh, you can space mouse in Prusa? I totally forgot about that. I love my space mouse. So, all right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the stream. I hope you guys enjoyed that little segue about our kind of history. There are, if you guys go through our news posts on our website, I have posted like kind of follow-ups. I haven't done one in a couple of years, but when we first started out, I kind of posted like a recap of what we've been doing, what we've been up to, where we started at that year, where we came from. You know, it's you know, we try to be pretty transparent with everybody about what we do here, because that's how I like to run the business. You know, it's another reason why when I encounter companies, you know, like that new makers company that's, you know, more than likely lying about their origin of their filament to try to make more money, it pisses me off, you know, because I try to be honest with our customers. I try not to take advantage of them and lie to them. I'm just looking for getting ready to roll my outro here. So anyways, I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you guys watching. I hope you guys enjoy the streams. I hope you guys enjoy the stuff we sell. And as always, happy printing. I will see you guys on the next one.